The aim of this residency for us was twofold. One was to get us back in the room together. We haven't made work together for a little while.
And is an opportunity as well to work on someone else's material. So usually we generate all the research before we start creating something.
So there was a time where we would look at the website by ourselves, then we discussed the website. Very quickly we realized we had these different ways of entering the website through the body, the mind and the blood.
My approach in responding to the Monsoonal Multiplicities exhibition was both familiar and unfamiliar, in that I did some things that I usually do. I went to books and did some research and talked to people and carried a lot of the ideas around from the exhibition in my head. Over the last 10 days, I've been thinking about air, monsoonal air, London air, and the air where I am in the middle of England, drawing it in big, deep breaths.
This project was very much about unpacking this archive of weather history and really thinking about it as a South Asian woman, as a person who wants to perhaps take ownership of that history, and also find how do these archives, how do we make them live? How do we reimagine them? How do they translate for us as social documents of history?
One thing that definitely we have found through this residency is to work with this idea of mapping. That's something that we've been developing with the help of John Cook, which is one of the researchers that has been doing all the mapping for the website.
We also have a lot of words in different kinds. We have like a collection of weather words. We've found some bits and pieces of Shakespeare that talks about the weather. We have names of wind in different languages.
The third framework was heritage, so the idea of blood and how we were connecting to the material through that. And obviously it wasn't obvious for myself or for Nina, but was very obvious for Mita.
There's a line in the website that says the trade winds blow from east to west. I was obviously reminded of the East India Company and how the East India Company blew the trade from the spices and the silks and the gunpowder. And then it blew my ancestors as well. My great-grandparents came here and they returned. My great-great-grandparents came here and they returned. But my father came here and he stayed and he settled. But it's really still, it's not like a cloud.
The idea of scale is very evident in Monsoonal Multiplicities, because you understand the life cycle of a dragonfly in relationship to how long it takes that dragonfly to fly from South Asia. It takes 4 generations. Then I started also very intuitively wanting to make the map of London. And so these watercolors, these water maps began. I'm excited about the water maps because of the way that I filmed making them. So it's not about a finished product, but it's about a process of thinking how the medium of water floods a page and slowly over time dries into this kind of shell or this map.
I couldn't actually visit London, which would be a normal part of my research process. So what I did was I went to books and I looked for London in books. I looked for London in my past work and I gathered those things around me and I worked on the floor and I arranged those objects and that material in a variety of ways. I often talk about what I do as the choreography of objects, and I think that's what I was doing. I went on the East India Company walk as part of one of the events, and that had quite a profound effect, I think. I was just playing with objects in relation to landscape before that. And then when I went on that walk, we were shown a very particular painting that was done on the ceiling in the East India Company offices. So I turned the landscape round because of that shape, so it became more of an elliptical, and so the landscape was tipped on its side.
An important thing that I learned from Monsoonal Multiplicities platform is the fact that we can learn from the global south. So the solutions, the processes, the sustainable ways of living that people adapt and adopt in their lives is something that I think continues. There's a kind of tradition of living with climate, with weather conditions, and using those conditions to kind of move through your space. So I think that is something very precious that this platform gives us.
Nor rain, wind, thunder, fire are my daughters. I tax not you, you elements, with unkindness. I never gave you kingdom, called you children. You owe me no subscription.